Hello and welcome to my fall season prediction for the NA region. I'll probably only be covering the NA region because I don't know much about the Asian scene, and I think Europe is so dominant right now. Everyone's talking about, Vitality, Falcons, Mals, all the big hitters, Spirit. There's not really need to do it, and I do love my region. I live in America, so we're going to talk about just NA in general. Small side note. Well, Liquid is now considered a European roster. It's still a North American organization. You've got, of course, NAF and Twists, you know, legends of the region, and then Nerds, who's Israeli. But in the org is also European though, but they have a very large presence in A. So we'll start off with Liquid. They will not be at Pro League. Because they're a European team, they had to go through a European qualifier. They lost to, I believe, Sashi or Songal, one of those two S teams. So they're out. Now I'm hoping that they'll do better than last year, and last year really wasn't too bad. I think they made playoffs once with Shuei. Didn't do it at all with Twists. But I think they'll do better. They'll be at Cologne. I'll look at the events here. So they'll be at Cologne Stage One, Bounty. That'll be coming up in the Esports World Cup. They play Pain in the opening. I think they should win that. And then FaZe will play big earlier in the day, and I think FaZe will win that. Small side note. And then I think I'm going to say that FaZe beats Liquid just because there's more structure. Kerrigan's been there for so long, and the players have been there for at least has been there for 6 months, but he's not really in charge of T side. He's more of a CT, but there's more cohesion there. Shuei's only been there for a few months. They have a new player. They have a brand new coach. Actually, well, they don't have any new players. I misspoke. Shuei's the only new one. They've got players who've been there for a while, but Shuei is, he's not been there very long. I don't think 2 or 3 weeks is enough time to really to get locked in on ideas. So I think they'll lose that, and then they'll play someone in the lower bracket. But I think they'll get to stage two. They're underdog to make playoffs. If they make it, it's a huge win. If they can have just a deep run in stage two, that's a win. I'm like, okay, if I'm the Liquid management, okay, you know what? We exceeded expectations. We had a deep run at stage two. Maybe we won an opening match in stage two. We got like a Virtus Pro matchup, just like a weak European team that is struggling because Virtus Pro struggled at Fissure. I don't think they won a single series. I think they went out 0-2. I'm pretty sure they did. I'm not gonna look. Not doing that. And then in Bounty, I'll try to just talk as I go. I'll probably have gameplay video in the background, but let's see. I don't think stage one. Yeah, they've not drawn the rankings yet. But X Navi Jr. is here, so if Liquid can get any of these lower ranked teams, it is online. But if they can get any of these teams, I think like in a static or a TNL, maybe a Fnatic, an X Navi Jr. If they can get NRG, which we'll get to, I think they can beat NRG because they're sort of onboarding two new players, and we'll get to them later. Or maybe they even get an Amiga. The Amiga's lost one of their better players to Spirit. And I think, I generally think if they can beat one of those teams, and if they can get to the top eight, or if they can get out of this round of 32 and then round of 16, and they can get to the playoffs, that's a good season. And if they don't do on this tournament, it doesn't really matter. It is online to start. It's whatever. I would like them to get one win, but it truly matters in what seeding they get and who they face. If they can get a team that's comparable, maybe like a Virtus Pro Cologne, or maybe a Heroic or an MIBR team that's middle of the pack, they have a chance to win that. And then if they can win their next match, mission's accomplished. It's a good showing for me. New concept, new coach. I think that's what I would be looking for. And then the Esports World Cup, and it is stacked. The only team that I'd say is weak is probably Gamer Legion or 3D Max. It's close between those two. But otherwise, Tyloo just won Fissure. That was earlier today. Good for them to beat Astralis. Astralis played well. Not well enough. Yeah, this will be tough because I'm not really sure what the format of this is. It's single playoffs, single elimination, best of three, then the third place decider. So if I had to guess, it's single elimination bracket. So you win, you move on. You lose, you're out of the tournament. If they can get top eight, borderline, I think for Team Liquid, they have to make playoffs, either top eight or top six at events. They have to make playoffs. If they're coming up short or just bombing out, they have to do something to fix this roster. But the minimum for these three events and any events that they hopefully qualify for, and getting to those events relies on doing well in these events. Um, they have to do well. They have to get playoffs because it at least give them. It might hopefully raise them up a little bit in the VRS. And if that's not the case, they'll at least stay where they are, and that's hopefully, maybe they move a few spots is enough to get to a major. And I think the roster lock is in October. It's October or November. It's one of those two. So they've got time to get these together. But it's simply a matter of they've got to get these wins. They have to get good matchups against good opponents, or just bad opponents. And they have to get a cheeky win here or there against a top 10 team, top 15 team to help bolster their rankings. Now let's move on to complexity. They were at Fissure. They made playoffs. I think they did it 2-0. Yes, they went two matches, two wins. Good for them. And so you know, I think JT said they were kind of happy with the result, and I guess I am too. I had said on X that if they had, they had a chance to make the finals, and they just couldn't beat Saw. Saw would eventually, I think, lose to Astralis or Tyloo, one of those two. The two grand finalists. But I think for complexity, they're going to have to do well at Cologne. We'll go look at that. A lot of the teams that are up first are going to be in the bigger events because they're so highly ranked in their respective regions in a way. Now, Complexity gets Gamer Legion. I think that's a good win. I think, if they win that, all they have to do is that they'll be playing probably Tyloo. I don't think Virtus Pro will be doing very well this year. Little EU action for you. They're not going to do. They're going to crater out. I think Electronic doesn't have it as an in-game leader. I think Perfecto's a good signing, but the fact that they did so poorly at Fissure, or I think they got blown out multiple times. That's a bad sign. And it's a LAN. It isn't like it was some dumb online event, whatever. This was an, in-person, LAN event. And that's you want Virtus Pro to at least make the playoffs of that. And then the bar should have been like, okay, semifinals. Win a playoff game, and then you lose semifinals, fine. That should have been like the standard. And they just didn't even meet it. But back to complexity. I think they'll play Tyloo and they'll go down to the lower bracket, but I think they'll get to stage two. I don't know if they'll make playoffs. It really depends on two things: if Hellzerk plays really well and Grim plays really well. If and they have to do it together. If they can do it together, that means the space can be taken by other players. They'll win. If only one of them is hot, the other one's just warm or room temperature, it's a 50-50. If both of them just flame out and just have bad games in stage two, no one's doing anything. I don't trust any of the newer players. JT can frag out, but I just don't think they have the pieces to really. Those players can really lift up the team. No disrespect to Sixy and Nyx. They're good, but they're not all stars yet. They have the chance to be, but right now because they are still fairly new, I I don't see them just doing it. Becoming in the backbones of the team. And then along with that, they'll play in Bounty, and then sort of the same thing with Liquid, which they're not too farly spread apart in the global VRS, but they'll probably the odds of them getting a lower team are kind of difficult because they're on the other side of the 16 teams that have been invited. So they'll probably play a better opponent. If they can get a team like Pain or Virtus Pro again, maybe even a G2, they have a chance to get into the next round. And I think that's where things would get difficult for them. But we'll see. They have a chance if they make playoffs. I think that's another success. And I think it's a bigger success than Fissures because there's more money on the line. There's better ranked teams here. So in general, you have a chance to maybe jump Pain or Furia or some of the other higher. I don't think it's anybody even higher. They have I don't know if they'll pass Pain, but if they can beat Pain and a match that happens, I don't know. We'll see. They'll at least climb the rankings a good bit. They'll get into the top 20, which would be good for complexity. They'll get into the more global events. But I think the core goal for complexity is just maintain your position, maybe try to get second in the region, just make playoffs, get to the major. Once you get to the major, make stage 3. You hope to start in stage 2. I think MIBR will fall off, and I think complexity can sneak in, take that spot, start in stage 2, get a little more time to get warmed up for Budapest, get into stage 3, try to make playoffs, and if you can, at least have like a 3-2 record. I mean, I should say a 2-3 record. At least win 2 matches. At least win 2. But we'll see. That's my prediction for complexity. I think they can get back to their Bucharest form, where I think they finished 4th. I think, yeah, they finished 4th in the event, which is good. Top 4 is really good. Now we move on to NRG, one of the, let's see, I'm going to say questionable teams right now. So I think they made top 8 at Dragodelphia 19 in Canada. They didn't do very well. Forget who they lost to. They lost to Blue Jays, who I believe finished 4th. They lost to Fluxo in the 3rd place decider. But in terms of who they beat Derpy Diamond Dudes, who it seems like it's the team that's just formed in Canada. It seems like it's a bunch of random guys. Good for them. And then Marsborn, who we'll get to, but they're an average NA team. They're not doing much. You know, in terms of the region itself, they'll get wins, but they'll get losses, and they're not. No offense, they're not advancing that much. But I'm not sure because Exotic. I didn't watch all the games. I was working the whole week, but he was putting up really good ratings at the event, like super good. And then yeah, good rating, a good player. I don't know. I've heard the Dust 2 article that came out. I think someone asked about it. And they asked me, where do you see this? And it's a Dust 2 article. I will probably link it in the description. But he seems to be good. I think he was on Getting Info, so there was no real transfer fee. So he was pretty much a free. We need to shell out extra cash to get him to sign a contract. Carson, I believe, at least according to the player profile pictures, he did play with George. So I would think George said, "Hey." They probably went to George and said, "Hey, what do you think about Carson? Is he a good sign?" I've heard he can be toxic. I think also in that same article on Dust 2. But we'll see. I would have. I mean, if Exotic really is like the next big NA which there aren't many, but if he's like in a sense the OC in terms of like, oh yeah, up and coming player, fine. We'll give it a try. I don't know. We'll see. And then Carson, I don't know. He's been on tier 2, tier 3 NA teams for years now, but we'll see. I don't. And then I think all they have right now is they've got Bounty and we'll go back to Bounty again. I don't think they'll, if they win a match, if they win the opening game, I think that's a win. But they're probably, because they're so lowly ranked, they'll probably play like a Spirit or Aurora or a Navi. I don't think they'll play a Mongols, Maus, or Vitality. I think they'll play a team within the top 5, but most likely in the top 10. It's if they get a map, it's like, oh wow, this they got a map that's pretty big. But if they win a series, it's like, okay, well, I think they've done their part. Yeah, I don't see them making playoffs at this. It's just too difficult, and I just don't know if the firepower, the structure will be there yet. And then they'll be in Pro League, and that's months from now. And I think I'm gonna say they'll make stage 2 because there's a lot of weak teams here because there's TNL, there's Fluxo, there's Rooster, Hotu, and yeah, I'd say if they can get a good matchup, maybe they'll play. They did well against Gamer Legion of the last Pro League, so I could see them making stage 2, but it depends on the draws they get and who they can play against. I mean, once again, if they can play Virtus Pro, 50 chance that they beat them. I'm just saying. I'm not, there's not much stock there. There's not much stock, but I think, yeah, right now I think NRG they will. I'm not sure if they'll. It depends on how well this roster does at the events that they're a part of. I want to say they're part of this season's Challenger League, but I've not seen much news about that other than like they're changing the format. I'd have to go back and look and see what dates that is and any other events. And they'll probably I would think they'll be at the Prize Picks event. I don't know if that's been announced who the teams are that have been invited, but they've not missed one since its inception. But yeah, I think with NRG, I think it's just make the major again. I said before the roster changes that they need to make playoffs at all the events that they get invited to. It's a bit difficult for Pro League, and it's even more difficult for Blast. And I doubt that. I mean, they could if they have to keep raising up their Valve ranking, they have to get into the top. Have to get into the top 20, and I don't think that's happening through VRS. So they're going to have to go through open qualifiers, and probably you'll have teams like M80, I think Wildcard, Blue Jays, Marsborn, Mythic. I mean, not Mythic. We'll get to them at the very end. Meme team, Boss, other teams, and I think it's difficult. It'll be difficult for them to do anything. So we'll see. I think stage one of the major is their goal. It's the major in general, but that's NRG for you. On to M80, the finalist at Philadelphia 19. They lost to Kolesi, a Polish team, which I don't think has any kind of representation. There's no org behind them. I don't know. They have no social media whatsoever that I know of. But I think M80. I think Hex is a good player. I think he's probably about as good as Rec was. I think they just want to just change him out. But I think M80 they'll be the second best team of NA team of the year. I think they'll be right behind Complexity. I think they'll be better than NRG. I think it's just Sin's been there a while. He's been there for I want to say over a year. Yeah, because they signed him after Copenhagen. I think they signed him and they signed Slacks. I think that's the case. I think Swisher can be good, Lake can be good, Hex can be good, Slacks can be good, Sync can be good. So I think you've got a lot of good players. I think they will make it to the major. If they don't make it, I will be shocked. Event wise, they've just got Pro League because I believe they won. Yes, they won the qualifier for it. They got in as a closed qualifier, which they could have just stayed in the ELC circuit and won it that way. But hey, so NRG gets in. Either way, they're in it, and I think I give them more of a shot to get into playoffs at Pro League. And in terms of like other events, because you're not in Cologne, which is a bit sad. That's no fun. But if you look at the event calendar, I could see them getting into the London Blast London event, maybe Starladder Budapest. I just don't know because it is sort of far out and they have to do well at the one event that they had, which is Pro League, and that's not for a while. So maybe they go into a Prize Picks event, they try to win that, get some money and some points. I don't think it'll be a lot. It's because they're so highly ranked and they'll be beating up on smaller, weaker teams or teams that are just around their level. There's no teams that are above them that's in Europe or South America or Asia that they can fight on. But if they just need to, whatever events they can get a hold of, they've got to win them. Bigger, if they're smaller events, they've got to win them. Get those points. If they're medium-sized events, try to win them. Or at least make deep runs into the events. And if they're like tier one events, just win one or two, get into the next stage. Maybe fringe playoff team underdog, maybe. But right now, all you really have is Cologne in July. You have the bounty in the Esports World Cup. PGL is somewhere in here. Or is it just not showing up? Because, yeah, I guess all we have is PGL Bucharest Season 2. I thought we had more events from PGL. I go CAC, they'll do something. Maybe they'll make a Thunder pick or something. These are all the tier 1 events, yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, I think M80, they'll probably be a stage 2 team at the major. Maybe they get into stage 3. I think they have a chance to get into stage 3. I think they'll be a better team. Like I was saying, second best team in the region. Let's move on. Not much to say because there's not many events scheduled for them. Wild card. I think they're going to get worse, and it's not because necessarily that Stanislaw is gone. It's because they have no who they're going to replace him with isn't very. No offense to Sonic, but I don't think he's ever been an in-game leader. He hasn't done it for a long time. And he's not here for that long because he even said, "Yeah, they asked me, they need me to stand in for the VRS, play like 10 games. I don't want to do it, but I mean, hey, we're under contract, I guess." But I think they're going to get worse. They probably won't even make. I don't think they're going to make the major. I think they're going to just bomb out, and they've got nothing scheduled right now. They have no events. They have no pro league. They're not in Bounty. They're not in Cologne. I wouldn't be surprised if they just try to do price picks, and they're gonna have to just get into some of these open qualifiers. And I think that will be a struggle. That'll be the toughest thing. And like right now, we're ranking HLTV 27, but the VRS is at 49. Oof, it's open qualifier season, and they made. I think it was Astana. I think that was an open qualifier, and they made that, and I think they made playoffs, so they came up short. Whatever, but at least they made a tier one event, and that guy, and they won one or two matches, you get VRS points. But I think Friend is a good offer, probably an upgrade for Fuzi. Susp is good. Sonic can be good, but I think he's gonna have a drop off. He's having the IGL, and it's a new thing, and peeping. People say that he's good. I don't know if he's good or not. I don't know. I think he won't be very good on a roster that's in flux, that's a mess. Jaba or JBA, however it's pronounced. If I'm saying it wrong one way or the other, I do apologize. Uh, I could see him if this roster falls apart. He could go play for like NRG or maybe Complexity or M80. I could see them just like, hey, we'll take him. We'll take that really good player, who's up and coming, who's fairly young, who has shown that he's really good. We'll take him, no problem, no questions asked. We'll take him, no problem. So I would not be surprised if this team just disbands, which is sad because I do like Sonic and I like Friend, and I don't know Susp that much, but I think he seems like a very nice guy, and I just. I don't mean it. It's not personal. I just don't, like I said, they've got no events. They've got nothing. They've got nothing going on. I think this is a dead team. I think it's one thing to bench Stanislaw. Fine. All right, bench him. Fine. He might be really good. I don't know. They didn't do really well at the major. They had issues there. I think culture issues that Sonic mentioned. Whether that's because of Stan or it's because of management, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe just because of management. I don't know. But this team is it's like who you couldn't get anybody because you can't bench more than two dudes. You can't bench more, and so you bench Fozy, who was one of the high rated players. Okay, fine. Then you bench your in-game leader. So unless you're like going to go out and get Cadian, an IGL, and he's not doing very well. I think he needs to just get back on a server and just start practicing again, getting his skills up. Like it doesn't make any sense. So this is a dead team. This is a dead team. Probably looking at my tabs that you won't be able to see right now. I'd have to say other than Mythic, and I'm going to say other than Mythic, and maybe and then maybe Party Astronauts are getting info. I think this is the worst team. They'll be the worst team this year. They won't do anything. They will not make the major. That's my prediction for wild card. All right, Blue Jays. This is the old Nouns core that disbanded became Moneyball. I think they'll be the third best. No, third or fourth. They'll be around the level of NRG, and they did better than NRG. They made top four at Philadelphia. They lost to Fluxo. I don't remember. Let's look at that score. Was it close? No, I remember it not being close. Not really close at all. I watched that one. Yeah, they'll be the third or fourth. They'll fight for NRG for positioning on the VRS. I think Junior's good. Freshie can be good. Classia. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right. I'm not sure I heard it. Cryptic, and then Laxi, who's Mongolian. Yeah, I think they'll do fine, and I think it's the same thing. Yeah, they have nothing scheduled, big event wise, and they'll be at the Dust 2 Masters for sure. It'll be a bit tougher for them to get into the major, but I think if they can like maybe sneak into an open qualifier and win it and get to a tier one event, you know, there's a chance, there's a chance they could get in, but it'll be tough. They are considerably outside of the world ranking, I should say. I mean, they're like there's just a lot of Brazilian teams that are better than them right now. But like I said, if they can get like into a qualifier and then win some Prize Picks events, some Dust 2 Masters, I keep forgetting that exists. I apologize for that. I think, yeah, but Blue Jays and because Energy's not played any of the Dust 2 stuff. I don't think M80 Wild Card will play the Dust 2 stuff. They'll need to play it to get their points up. But I think Blue Jays, they have a chance to be the best online only team this season. I think of all the online events like the Prize Pick and the Dust 2 Eagle Master stuff, and I think there's the World Domination event, Infiltration or Invasion, World Domination Invasion. They have a chance to win that. And then in my home area, there's the I forgot the Knoxville frag event that's happening in about 1 or 2 months. It's happening pretty soon. So they have a chance, to keep attending these smaller tier two events. They can win those. Same can go for NRG if they choose to attend some of these smaller events, or just it'd be in general. Just get into these events, do well in these smaller events, get those points, try to get to win these open qualifiers, get to a tier one LAN, even a tier two if they're offering open qualifiers. Just get onto a LAN and get some wins and show up. That's their path to the major. They just have to make one big tournament, win 1 or 2 games, win or at least finish second or third if possible at these online events. That's their road to the major. That's the only way they're going to get in. If they can't do that, this roster will probably be let go like the team that his boss was let go when they didn't qualify for the major this year. That's it. And it's tough right now for this region because there's a few events, but the rankings are so so far apart because there's so many good Brazilian teams right now. There's some very good Brazilian teams that also take up these positions. And because they did so well in playoffs and stage three, we get more slots because of it. That's great, but it's going to be I think of all these other teams that are left. There's one or two I think that can make a push for a major, but I think Blue Jays out of the other than wild card, I think if there's like one spot left, I think Blue Jays will get it. They'll get the little Blue Jay bird sticker. Good for them. But I think generally right now, they'll make the major, but they have to, like I said, they have to win. They flawless. They have to do really well at all the events they attend. If they can't, they're done. Close to the halfway point, I believe. We're getting close. This is Marsborn. Now, not much. I can't say much about Marsborn, but I would say that I believe they won. They won the first Dust 2's Eagle Masters event, so good for them. Not too bad. That was, a VRS event, of course. They won $5,000. They beat Nouns, the team that is now just finished talking about them. Blue Jays. So just finished talking about. I forgot who it was. They beat Blue Jays. You know what? Marsborn is another team I think that can make the major, but it's going to be a case for a lot of these teams. Get into these online events that I've just been talking about ad nauseum. Maybe make a land somewhere like a tier one of an open qualifier. Just sneak into it, but it's sort of the same. I think they're behind they're rightly behind Blue Jays right now, and they could usurp them if they come up against them, and like maybe it's in a playoffs or something. That'll be good for them. But I'd say yeah, it's sort of the same thing. It's going to be a lot, I think, for a lot of these teams. But as we go on, I'm going to just say making the major probably not going to happen. But with Mars One, they have a chance to do it. They have a cool little logo, and they've got some players who I believe they've been around for a little while. It would be nice to get this is an all-American lineup. It's just like there's not a European, there's not someone from South America. It's truly all American, or just all this region, and that's really cool. I like that. So it'd be good for I would think as an American organization to get American players in. Maybe they do well at the major. I don't think they will. Maybe they make stage two if that's their best scenario. But I think right now for Marsborn, sort of the same thing with the Blue Jays. Win your all-in events, try to get to a big land if even possible, and that's your ticket to get into the major. Getting info. This is a team that looked really good at the end of the season, and I believe they were rumored to get picked up by TSM, but they couldn't get a sponsorship for them, which kind of sucks. And I think with them, at some point the team will disband because you've got Markey, who's not American. Doesn't matter. Who cares? You've got Markey, you've got Shane, you've got Dare, you've got Snav, and you've got Slump, who I don't know much about. Snav he was on Timberman for the longest time. Was on Elevate. I think him and Dare. No, it was Snav and Shane. Looking at the jerseys now, they've gotten close to qualifying, and then they just can't get it over the line. And at some point, maybe they're used to just snapping and they're like, yeah, we're used to, we have jobs, it doesn't matter. But at some point, it's gonna fall apart if you just can't do anything. They they could win, they're a team that could win a Dust 2 Eagle Masters or a Prize Picks. I think they've done it before. I think they did it as Boss once. I think the most recent Prize Picks. Can't remember for sure. I think it was that. But same story. Just you know, when you're on events, I don't think they'll do anything at like they'll get into the bigger LAN events. I don't think they're good enough to win in the open qualifiers for that or the closed qualifiers, whatever it is. But in terms of the online events, I think they can do well. They can maybe climb up a little bit in the rankings. But I think yeah, unless someone buys, signs this whole unit or just three players to a roster that is actually an organization, I don't see them doing much at all, if anything, at the moment. Yeah, I did either they get signed, which I think is probably the goal for these players, and it'll just get signed to an organization. The major, not going to happen, in my opinion. It's not going to happen. Sorry, people who love these players or the getting info team, whatever, I don't care. They're not getting to a major. It's not going to happen. The goal of this group is to get signed to another organization. Just some smaller organization that has, teams and other games. Maybe Envy or Sentinels was like, you know what? We want to just spend money, spend like 100 grand getting this together. We'll just buy this. Maybe that happened. I doubt it'll happen. That'll happen. But yeah, they just want to get signed by somebody. I think that's the goal this year. All right, now it's time for lag. So lag, I was looking at their previous events. They finished first at ESEA Advanced Season 53 of North America. They got third, fourth at Philadelphia back in March, and I believe, yes, this roster, because Lag dropped their roster midway through Challenger League this past spring. They dropped them. So some of these results, I think, because it looks like I think it was after, because there's a big gap in the beginning of April up until June. I forget who they signed. They picked up some team, and the results have been, they won, like I said, ESCA Advanced. They finished third, fourth at Eagle Masters. They didn't do anything. They did not do well at the close qualifier for Pro League. And if I look at Philadelphia 19, they finished 9th, 12th, so just out of playoffs. But it would be a broken record. They've got to win their online events. Maybe the 1% chance they get to a big land. 1% chance, it's not going to happen. But they have to just win these online events. Try to get those points up. Get some wins under your belt, and go from there. Wolfie, I think this is the Wolfie that was on Blue Jays before he was benched for Dare. There's two Wolfies. It's confusing for me. I think it's him. If it's not, I do apologize. But I think they'll maybe they get to the major. I'd say it's slim, 30% chance. It's a slim. If they get in, it'll be because they just do really well. the events they play in. But if they get in, it's a miracle, and it's like, oh my God, lag, life's a game, life's the greatest game because they got in. But yeah, it'll be just same as before. Win your events that you can, and just try to climb the ladder. Chicken coop, chicken coop. Let's look at the chicken coop. They got second at the ESEA season. They lost to the team we just talked about, Lag. And then at Fragadelphia, they finished sort of in the same spot. Yeah, they made playoffs. I don't remember who they lost to. It may have been, I think it was Betclic. I'm pretty sure it was Betclic who they lost to, which is a team that has Diha and a few other Polish players, that no one else knows about. Diha is the only big name or noticeable name on that roster. But Chicken Coop, yeah, it's sort of the same thing. Just be good at, don't be terrible. Win your events, win what you can, because they didn't do Masters 2. I think it's because the roster wasn't ready and they had to. I think it was Bad News Capybaras. It was either Chicken Coop got the Bad News Capybaras players. I don't think it was Marsborn. I think it was Chicken Coop. It's either Lag or it's Chicken Coop that got Bad News Capybaras, who was a team that played in Challenger League last year. It's getting real repetitive. I know. Gotta win your online events, and that's the name of the game right now. There's no RMRs or RMQs or whatever the hell they are. So yeah, that'll be it for them. Party Astronauts. This is pretty much just Mythic, but not Mythic. Austin's a streamer. OG Wizard. I'm a little familiar with like OG Wizard and Sacrifice and Ben Lee. I think they've been on this roster for a while, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna do much. In all honesty, I don't think they'll do well. If their goal, I think the goal I'd have for them is just win some Dust 2 events, win some Prize Picks events, just win these. You know, you have to, and if you aren't winning these, then you're just wasting your time because this team isn't going to make the major. This is a team that needs to just, and I don't think they've done well to be with either way. Like I look at, they lost Lag in the qualifier. They finished fifth. Uh, they lost in the first round of the playoffs, so the Dust 2 Eagles Master stuff, and they beat the teams that they beat on their way up there were Girl Kisser, which is just a free team. Anybody can sign them. And then they lost to Boss, who was I'd say which I'm not even sure who's on Boss. We'll get to them in a little bit. I think it may have been. I think that was the old Boss lineup before Snav left. So that was a decent team. And then Akimbo, which is a good team. I've not talked about them that much. I'll have to talk about them towards the end. But at the moment, yeah, it's like Mythic. I don't see them doing anything at all. Maybe they win some events. Maybe they have good finishes, but I don't count on it. And Boss. Now I believe Boss. I don't think they even have a roster finished out yet. I don't think they have anyone announced yet. I'm gonna go check their social media page. So I don't even know if they're gonna be able to compete because, like I said, they've not announced anything on their social media stuff. They get all their posts. I might DM them later on tonight as it goes on to say, hey, if he doesn't have any players listed, would you like this? Are there any players looking at to filling these 2 spots? I would love to hear from you and to get this news out. We'll see. Yeah, but for right now, it's this Fruit Cup Slight and Dirty. They're good players. I'd say they're decent players. But I think right now that for one they have to get, if they haven't even announced it, they have to get these 2 players filled. And I think it's just for them, just have good runs at the online events. Major, not a goal. Yeah, win the online, win or deeper into the online events, and then just get signed by an organization. I think just that's the goal. I think for a lot of the teams that don't have any kind of organization behind them, like getting info or a boss, the goal this season is get signed by an org, and then have good results for what you can win this season, and then jump that into spring next year, and then try to get into the major then. Because right now that's not the goal. The goal right now is just get signed to an org. So I think I'm gonna DM them and say, hey, you got anything going on? I'd love to break some news. Let's get that going, and then we'll go on to Mythic, and then we'll go on, and then no expectations. This is a team that it's Flom, who streams. Like Ponelum stream. Everyone pretty much just streams, and this is more of a team that's for fun. If you ever wanted to listen to a pro match in real time, call out strategies, this is like a show match team, and it's a show match team, and I mean they do well at it, and they make good money. I think Flom does. He's maybe the biggest personality in NA in terms of just streaming. Uh, Austin's probably, I'd say Austin is second. Austin's second, but Flom's number one for good reason. He's very involved with everything, all the events that I saw him at the Major. That was really cool. Really nice guy. I didn't think Mythic. We'll see. I don't even know what they even did this week. Like their matches. They did the North American qualifier. They finished ninth, eighth, ninth, 12th. And then Pro League, they lost out for 49, we've never heard of. And the PGO Bucharest, ninth, 12th. Yeah, just. It's if they win like it does too, it's like, oh wow, this is just big clout moment. We got a bunch of people are looking at us. Look at us, big social media hoopla. Be good numbers like that. If they make the major, which I don't think they will, but if they make it, it'll be the biggest thing in NA. In terms of just meme potential. Like, oh my God, Mythic made a major. It's insane. It's insanity. We'll see, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And then Akimbo, which they're not ranked right now, Valve wise. But they're a team that's done okay. They've not done too bad. They finished third, fourth at the Eagle Masters 2. They finished second at the Fuse to Stigma Cup. That was a charity event, I think, for mental illness. And they finished fifth, sixth at the ESA Advance. And I think that was an 8-team event, so that's not good. And then they finished 9th, 10th at Challenger League, which isn't good. I think Akimbo is just try to get better this season. Try to get back into the VRS. And then next season is where you really, that's when you want to make the big leap forward. I think that's the goal right now for them. But yeah, and I think if there's a team that you were looking for they didn't cover, it's probably because I thought there's, like a lot of these teams towards the end, there just wasn't much going on. Sadly, guys, I'm sorry, but I think right now it's, if I didn't mention them, they're just not going to do a lot. But thanks for watching. Have a good night. I'll see you guys later. If you like the video, please leave a like and share the video so more people can see it. I'd like to hear all their thoughts that do see it. But until then, have a good one.